Ugh. I really hope that's chocolate on my sleeve. This week we are discussing from the introduction to the chapter titled, hold on, and that's why Neil Patrick Harris would be the most successful mass murderer ever, of Jenny Lawson's book, Let's Pretend This Never Happened. Humor books always have the longest chapter titles. Most of what we have read so far seems to be dealing with Jenny Lawson's childhood, and I have really been enjoying it. And I wrote down that may partially be because I grew up in a small southern town, and I can relate to things like the bread bags for shoes, except we used Walmart bags for shoes, and then the tractors in school, the ag buildings at school. We got our water from a well. Although instead of armadillo races, we had toad races. I'm not sure if that's better or worse. And I also hate to compare this to the last book that we read, Mindy Kaling's first book, but this is kind of what I had wished Mindy Kaling had done with some of her childhood stories. So far, these stories that Jenny Lawson is telling, they feel very full to me, kind of like they reveal something about who Jenny Lawson is as a person, and they also feel very carefully selected. Also, I appreciated her sarcastic non-apology, is what I like to call it, in the intro, where she talks about, quote, uptight, easily offended people. Although so far, I haven't really noticed anything that I thought could be considered horribly offensive. But I also wrote that maybe that's just because we're only hearing about our childhood so far, and maybe those stories will come later. There may have been a couple things that I could sort of see being triggers for other people. For example, one thing that I think could have been a trigger for me was when she was talking about how great it is to have gay best friends in the Neil Patrick Harris chapter, and I hate that with a passion. I hate the term gay BFF and how it sort of turns friendships with gay people into novelties, and it makes them seem like disposable sidekicks or some sort of charm that can just be thrown away. However, this section did not really do that for me. I did not have a negative reaction to it because I felt like she was making fun of that situation and drawing attention to how that way of thinking is flawed and annoying, and it came across more as clever, and I really appreciated it. And then the cursing doesn't bother me either, probably because I curse a lot in my own life. I do think it's annoying when cursing is used as a crutch for humor, but that also doesn't really seem to be the case here. I get the impression that this is really how Jenny Lawson talks. The chapter about Jenkins I really appreciated because it sort of stretched this story about these really awful turkey slash quail, jumbo, whatever thing. It stretched that into revealing how Jenny Lawson started to feel like she was okay with accepting who she is. And I thought that this was a good example of getting a funny story, but getting a funny story that was also fulfilling and revealed a lot about the author. Also, like in Mindy Kaling's book, we get encouragement for people in high school, which seems to be a theme in several humor books. On page 64, she writes, "You should enjoy and appreciate your days in high school because you will remember them the rest of your life. Like when you're in prison or you're getting mugged at gunpoint, you can say to yourself, well, at least I'm not in high school." But I could probably ramble on and on about all of my favorite parts in this section so far, but I'd rather hear some of yours as well. This week, read the next 9 chapters from No One Ever Taught Me Couch Etiquette to My Vagina Is Fine, Thanks for Asking. And we will be discussing those next week. Should be interesting. This week I would like to hear your first impressions of Jenny Lawson and of this book, and I would also like to know what you thought of that non-apology in the introduction and if you thought it was necessary. Also, you can let me know anything else you want to say about this book and I will be reading and replying, so read up and I will see you guys Wednesday.